How's it going, everyone? This is Kevin. Today I'll bring along with me to show you how to set up your ZV-E1 for photo and video purposes. So let's jump right into it. If you recently picked up a ZV-E1 or planning to, I'm going to show you the settings that I have for video and as well for photo, so I can be really fast and efficient when creating with this little baby right here, because it's a really great camera for video, but you can also do some nice photos. So we're going to show you the settings that I usually use it, since it doesn't have as many custom buttons like my A7 IV would have, or even the A7S III, but that way you can use it in the most efficiently way and be good to go. All right, so we're gonna be setting it up first for the photo mode. So we're gonna go to the photo section right here. So just move over the little switch. Now, when we're in photo mode right here, we're gonna go into this little section right there where it shows you the settings. So we're gonna go down to aperture priority, because this is what I do for myself. You can choose to do manual mode if you want to. It's all up to you. But for me, I usually do aperture priority because you don't have many settings in this camera. As you see, there's only a certain amount of custom buttons. So we kind of have to do with what we got. The main thing will be going into the menu section right here. We got our shooting section. So whenever we go into it, you can see that, we're going to be just shooting more photos. This is not going to be for, video, obviously. So my thing is always to go into the image section, make sure that you're shooting file format. I usually do RAW. I don't do RAW and JPEG because I want to have the most that I can. I keep it uncompressed, and that's pretty much it when it comes down to that. From there, I go into the exposure and color. For the exposure, I go in here where I go to the ISO auto minimum shutter speed. I set it up for a 1/250th of a second because this is good enough for basically freezing time. And if it needs to adjust with a higher shutter speed, it will, because it'll keep with the ISO kind of scenario that way accordingly. So I just keep it at that. If you want to do higher, you can. It's up to you. But that's the bare minimum that I want to have. From there, I have my ISO range, which I keep it at that because, ISO is not that big of a deal with a lot of modern cameras, and as well with now with what you can do with post-production. For the ISO section, I go all the way to the forbidden zone, the auto ISO, which is not a horrible thing. I mean, just let it be. Cameras are very smart nowadays, so you'll be fine. From there, you can do your exposure compensation. You can either set it up this way, but it's just to have it right there. I usually keep it that way so it doesn't overexpose things. That's good enough. And that's pretty much it. So when it comes down to the white balance, I just make sure to have it in auto because it's raw files. You can kind of work a lot of them in post and you're good to go. And then for color tone, I just keep it in the standard creative look, obviously with the picture profile off. And that's pretty much it. You can add zebra display if you want to. Don't really care to do it too much with video or with photo, but more for the video part. Now for here in the autofocus and the focus point, I usually do continuous autofocus just because it works the best to be able to continuously track your subject, as well as when I go into the focus area, I do a zone section because you're able to kind of use this whole movement like that and then hit the circle, then you're good to go. From there, if you go back into this section right here, after we're done with everything, you can do your shooting mode. So if you want to do the saving of it, you just go into the memory, save it to number 1. So if you're good to go with all the settings that you want, you hit it there, you save it, and then you're good to go. If you want to have a high continuous mode shooting, that's what I usually have, or sometimes I'll do the single depending on the mode that I want to have. From there on, once it's saved, you go to this section, you go down to the MR1, go to the side, mine was saved at number 1, so I hit it. Now we are good to go to take any photos that we need to, so that we can just go ahead and save it. Moving on to the video, you just go simply to the video part. Who would have thought, right? From there on, you just simply go into the menu section again. Well, mine is already set up to that, but I would just go back to the manual mode because you want to be able to set up your shutter speed and everything manually. So you go to the manual mode first, you go into menu, then we're going to go into the image quality. For me, I'm going to keep it at high standard 4K because that's my SD card. You can choose to do either normal standard 4K or the all ultra, whatever you want to, but that's what I usually do for me. Then I do the movie settings. I keep it at 24 frames per second. And then record settings at 100 megabits per second, kind of style 422, 10-bit color. That's perfectly fine. Then for the log setting, I have it on flexible ISO for the log shooting, just because I'm able to use my embed LUT files that I have. If you wanted to just turn that off, you can. And then you can just go into your section right here for exposure and color to go to the color tone and change whatever you need to. But for me, I usually just kind of keep it that way so that I'm able to basically use the LUTs that I wanted to have for mine, and that's it. So that's what it goes. So I go back into my section for the exposure color. For, you have your ISOs that you can use, but I'll set that up in a bit. So we're gonna go into the white balance first. White balance, I don't keep it on auto because I don't like to just have it change on me, since sadly the Sony camera sensitive doesn't lock it. I usually just go to the Kelvin temperature for whatever I need to. I keep it at 5,000 because it's a good midpoint. If I need to then change it in post, before I start shooting, I can change that, but it's a good midpoint to have. From there, I go into the color tone. For me, if this part for you has it anything like that, you can put your picture profile on and go picture profile 9, which is a S-Log 3. I did it where I can have my select LUTs into it, so it lets me choose which LUT I want to have for my type of content that I want to do, or you can just have it directly to like S-Log 3 or Rec 709. But I just kind of keep it to that scenario because you can manage yours there. That's what I do. Then we go into the zebra display. I put it on zebra level custom 2, so the C2. I will put a lower limit 94 plus because then I'll make sure like the highest, like the highlights don't get blown up. So if I start seeing the zebras, then I know I'm like going above and beyond. Makes life easier. So that's basically what you have for that. The next thing will be the autofocus. I have continue autofocus right there. In the focus area, same thing with the zone. It just makes it easier for me. And that's pretty much it. The one also other thing that if you're going to be shooting with the S-Log 3, you go to setup, you keep going all the way down to display option, and then you go to gamma display assist, because then this will kind of fill it up to become like Rec 709 or with your LUT that you have, so that you have everything situated. Now, the next step will be is to have, we already have the 4K 24 frames per second. Our shutter speed needs to be 1/50th to do the 180 rule. I have my Kelvin, I have my ISO 640 because that is the base ISO for S-Log 3, because you have 640 and then 12,800. I can obviously just use this to go up and above if I need to. So I can just kind of bring it down, keep it at 640. And then from there, I go to menu, back into our camera section right here. And then we go into shooting mode, camera set memory to 1. And then once I did that, to save it to that, if I go right here again, go to M1 right there, now it's that. You can repeat this process to be able to do for the 4K 120 frames per second and the 60 frames per second. The only difference is you go into the menu section and then the image quality, and then movie settings. Instead of 24, you just change it to 120 or the 60 frames per second. So if I did it at 120, I would just go back to this and then just adjust my shutter speed to accordingly to what I would need to with the 180 rule. It'd be, the 250th of a second. So that way it's the 180 rule. And you just save it that same way through, and then you'll be fine with that aspect. But if we just go like that, if you see my menu right here, I'll show you my 1 is for that, 2 is the 120 frames per second, and 3 is for the 60 frames per second. So I can just adjust accordingly. If I want to change it, I'm good to go. If I need to change it again fast, I go like that, go like that. Now I'm at a slow motion for 120 frames per second. You can also use the S&Q mode to do the 200, and I think it's like the 240 frames per second or something like that, slow motion. But personally, I don't use that as much, but I still set it up accordingly for that, which you can just, follow the same process whenever you want to set up for the super slow motion. But that's pretty much it when it comes down to setting up your ZV-E1 for photo and video and to be fast and efficient. So that's pretty much it that I have for you guys when it comes down to the setup and how I usually do it. Make sure to go ahead and just, save the video if you need to be able to set it up accordingly for your 4K 24 frames per second, the 60, 120 frames per second. And you can apply to either way for that one and as well for the S&Q. But then you have also your photo needs, and the cool thing about it, you have your little switch so you can go back and forth, hit that, memory kind of section right there to be able to set up to the 1, 2, 3 that you need to, and you'll be all set to create some nice content, like how I've been able to use this setup, because it's been quite nice to have a small, compact, full frame setup that I can create everyday content and not, kind of feel like I have to drag out the big old, A7S3 or A7 IV for the content, or even like the 35 to 150. Just can kind of keep it with this and go out and create and have some fun. But with all that said and done, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to like and subscribe, share this video with a friend. I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.